Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about the AMC gamma squeeze, the huge buys in AMC, how shorts have to settle, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. Well, this is new and interesting for AMC. We did not finish at max pain, but we have 43,000 call options expiring in the money. Almost all puts expired worthless. Now, we talked about the context of a gamma squeeze where essentially when you see a lot of large call options being exercised, that will obviously trigger the gamma squeeze. And we talked about how a gamma squeeze is likely to lead into a short squeeze because it's obviously going to bring up the price and that's going to force many short sellers to cover. Now, what we are seeing is a large amount of call options expiring in the money. Now, does this mean that they will exercise it? Of course, it doesn't, but there is potential for this. And the reason for why I'm saying this is because of what we have been seeing recently. When you take a look at this, not only did Vanguard increase by 50%, 10 million shares, but Discovery, which sold before, now bought back with even more shares than before. Goldman Sachs sold puts, bought a ton of shares. Modric also bought back in, huge institutional buy-ins. So the reason why I'm talking about this is because recently we have seen a lot of institutional accumulations coming in for AMC. We're seeing how these institutions are buying up tons of AMC shares. They're flipping off their put positions and going into not only call positions, but also buying actual shares of AMC. And so this is why, going back to what we talked about here with the potential calls, we talked about how Goldman Sachs bought in calls. We talked about how other institutions have bought in calls. Now, we're also seeing that these institutions also want shares. So if their calls were to expire in the money, then what we are seeing is a high probability, so higher than normal probability of these institutions, of course, exercising these options. Therefore, of course, talking about the gamma squeeze that we have been talking about. And this is why it's important. Now, this doesn't mean that, of course, we're going to instantly see this. Recently, what we have also been looking at is how there have been plenty of call options being bought for AMC recently, and for the last few weeks, we've been seeing how we've been ending above max pain. We've been seeing how lots of calls have been ending in the money. And so these are all, of course, very, very positive news for AMC. And if we are going to be seeing institutions increasing their accumulations, whether that's just by buying shares on the market or whether that's with options, of course, calls, then what we could be looking at is more and more volume coming in. And of course, if we are going to be seeing them buying these shares through call options, then we could be looking at that potential gamma squeeze. Furthermore, you can also see another sign of the sentiment for AMC, of the accumulation. You can see how the sentiment is still extremely positive for AMC. So what we are seeing is how they are extremely bullish, how people are buying. This is for sentiment in terms of overall, so retail investors in general, the apes, and of course institutions. Now, we've mentioned this in the past before. Apes have always been bullish, but because of the fundamentals recently, because of the box office, how well it's doing, because how AMC is navigating themselves through this, we are seeing retail investors who originally weren't buying AMC but now seized the opportunity and buying into AMC. We're seeing institutions who originally were shorting AMC to be buying into AMC, and also institutions who realize that AMC is the best opportunity right now and therefore also buy into AMC. And so these are all things that we are seeing right now. If you want signs of, are we seeing buyers of AMC? Then yes, these are all signs, not just from this sentiment chart that we're looking at here, but throughout multiple things like we talked about with the institutional filings, like we talked about the calls expiring in the money. These are all signs of how people are in need of AMC shares, how we're seeing the demand for AMC shares go higher and higher. And that's another important thing. As the demand for AMCs go higher and higher, the shorts have to increase the supply. Therefore, now we're forcing shorts to create even more synthetic shares, which once again speeds up the squeeze process because it is creating a tightening in their liquidity, but also increasing the floor price of AMC. And that's what we are seeing. And remember, a reminder of why we are seeing so much endless manipulation of a $3 movie theater stock, it's because of this. Now, we talked about him, the founder and chairman of Interactive Broker, talked about how if the short squeeze happens, their stock will go to infinity practically. And that's talking about just how high a squeeze can, of course, take AMC. Now, we talked about why this is important. It's because the more shares that they create, then the more power that we have. Because when they create so many shares, they have to buy back however many shares they've created. And at that point, there's going to be even more need of AMC shares. And so that's why we're seeing that when we increase the demand of AMC shares and we force them to create more supply, we're also putting the price of AMC squeeze floor price to be even higher. And that's what we are witnessing right now. And of course, when you take a look at the fundamentals, like we've talked about, you can see at San Francisco AMC Metro on 16, what we are looking at is how every seat is sold out for the opening day screening. Now, just one particular news like this isn't, of course, going to bring AMC to its height. However, what it is showing is how well AMC is improving fundamentally. We have been seeing increasing amounts of news like this, how AMC is doing well, how AMC is selling out seats. Again, when you take a look at the overall as well, in terms of box office, we're seeing how the recent movies that have been created are all doing exceptionally well. And so AMC, in a time like this, you can see how they're able to profit all of this. And we talked about the restructuring of debt. So one thing to be expecting is that as we see AMC increase their revenue, we're also going to see them cut down the operational costs. We're going to be seeing them cut down the interest payment. And what that will mean is, of course, the profitability of AMC going up. And so all of this are just leading to one thing, which is AMC improving fundamentally, AMC cutting any possibility of bankruptcy. And so if you want to understand why people are now having the incentive, why people are attracted to AMC, these are the reasons why, because of how well AMC is doing. And then when we take a look at the technical factors, what we are also seeing here is the RSI saying buy here. Now, I want to use this chart is because this is on AMC against wrapped Solana. So what we are looking at is, of course, the tokenizations, and in terms of, because it is AMC against wrapped Solana. But what we've talked about this in the past before is that it still shows a slight sentiment. But when we also are looking at the tokens of AMC going up, when we're looking at these crypto assets, what we can be seeing is that if we're also seeing the demand for these to go up, it's very likely that shorts are also trying to find shares of AMC. And ultimately, if shorts are trying to find shares of AMC, then you can understand why people are buying even more. Because if they're in need, then we have the ability to sell them at a higher price. But also, if they are in need of AMC shares, it shows that they are worried for what's about to come. And hence why, when we're looking at these technical factors, like I said, technical analysis isn't the golden thing for AMC, but it does give us an understanding of where we are at. And it also shows what institutions are, of course, fearing. And that's what we are witnessing right now. You can see shorts are still trapped in AMC after 4 years. All trades must settle. And so this is the important thing. One of the things we've been highlighting throughout this whole video is how we are creating the demand for AMC. Therefore, we're forcing shorts to create the supply. And the reason why that's important is because at the end of all of this, shorts have to settle and all trades must settle. So however many synthetics that they've created now, they will have to buy each and every single one of them back in the future. And then going back to what we talked about with this, because of the fact they have to settle every single share, we have the ability to shoot AMC to infinity. And that's why they're all worried about the short squeeze of AMC. And then, of course, we talked about, all of these positive things. And when we take a look at AMC, we are still not seeing AMC go up 50 or 100%. Well, firstly, we have to understand is that some things obviously takes time. Once again, these calls may have been exercised and it could come in on Monday. When you take a look at the shares, we're already seeing how that's reflecting. When you take a look at the fundamentals and the bullish sentiment, remember, these still takes time to settle in. But also, it's because they are constantly spoofing AMC. You can see this, Goldman, Citadel, and Virtue spoofing and layering AMC. Now, we talked about the dark pool usage for AMC. We talked about how they are using it in abundance, and that's why we don't see all of the bullish volume going in. Once again, for a TLDR, for those of you who don't know, Essentially, what we are seeing right now is that on the lit exchange, we are seeing large blocks of sell orders. However, we are also facing and seeing large blocks of buy orders, but that is rooted in the dark pool. Therefore, it has no effect on the impact of price of AMC. And on top of that, we're also seeing the spoofing of AMC. And so you can understand what it is in terms of why we're still yet to see price discovery, why we're still yet to see AMC go up 50% in a day. It's because they're constantly manipulating and suppressing the price. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video. I'll catch you guys next time.